Hello lovely stitchy friends, I'm Kat and I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel, Catkin and Lily, where we talk all things cross stitch. If you're new here, then I hope you're really going to enjoy seeing my cross stitch updates, and if you're a returning viewer, then thank you so much for coming back to spend a little bit more time with me. It's always hugely appreciated because I know there are so many FlossTubers out there, and I am absolutely delighted when any of you want to come and spend your time listening to me chatting about cross stitch. So today is FlossTube episode number 26, and if you're a very keen bean, then I guess you might be watching this on the day of release, which means it will be Wednesday the 10th of July. But I'm actually filming a few days ahead of my normal schedule, more on that later. But today, as I film, it's actually Sunday the 7th of July. Now, I was due to be away this weekend with some friends, but really unfortunately they weren't able to go, and on short notice we couldn't find anyone else to fill the gap, but lovely husband Dr. Tim and I went away anyway. But the weather was a literal complete washout. It was awful. We did try and do a walk. We ended up, our feet were so soggy, and in the end we actually ended up coming home a little bit early. But that did at least mean that I could film today, so yeah, things have a funny way of working out sometimes. Now, last time we chatted, I had no finishes and no new starts, and it's actually the same deal today. Same again. No finishes, no new starts. But of course, because it's me, there is going to be a little bit of new stash. And I will have my giveaway winner to announce, so I'll pop that in somewhere towards the end, probably before I dive into plans. But first, of course, we need to get into the whips, so that's the works in progress. And I'm going to try something a little bit new and different for this particular FlossTube episode, something that was suggested by a lovely viewer, and I thought, yeah, that could actually be a really good idea, so we'll give it a go. And what that is that instead of me actually holding up my whips for you as I talk through each of them, I'm going to pop in some nice big pictures. So I'm hoping it will give you guys a little bit of a better look rather than me shaking it all around and peering, you know, you're doing the peering round trying to see. So I don't know how it's going to work, but anyway, we're going pictures instead of me holding it up. Obviously I'll still be chatting around that and letting you know where it was last time and where it's up to this time and all my thoughts about the piece. And I will still put my info panels in for you before I start showing the pictures, so they'll be up, the info panels will be on the side here for you to see all the details of the project, things like the fabric and such. And yeah, let's just give it a whirl. And I'm starting off with my Chromatic Dragon. And I'm very excited this is back because, very strangely, the last FlossTube I hadn't made any progress and I didn't have this one to show you. So that's really unusual for me, but it's back, it's back. I've actually worked on it this time round. So while I show you where it was last time, I can let you know the stats because this is the only project that I actually have any stats for. And I am currently at 45,902 stitches, which is 21.93%. So heading up towards my 22%, so very close. And I'm pretty much still alternating, doing some of the dark stitches and then doing some of the more colourful parts. So I have worked at pulling out all this area of dark stitching up here, and I feel like I'm making quite good progress on that. And then I've also worked on this horn and on the blue section underneath it. And yeah, that is a fair bit of confetti in that bit. But it is nice to get that colourful area in contrast to the areas of the dark stitching. Now I have a whip go call for July to put in 5,000 stitches on Chromatic Dragon. That's a fairly hefty number of stitches. Now I have done it twice already this year. That particular goal was on my whip go board 3 times, and this is the third and final time that that's come out. So I've done it twice already this year, so I know I can do it. But there's a lot going on this month. So I'll come back to that one when I talk about plans. My second whip for you is Rossa by Bella Filipina. So this was the very first fancy lady that I started, and I'm just into beading on this one now. And I've got to be honest, I still feel like I'm dragging my feet a little bit on this. So here's where it was up to last time. And I think all I've done since then is, I think I've just done 1 day of stitching on it. Not stitching, beading. So here's where it was last time. And I think all I've done since then is 1 day on it. Although I did manage quite a decent bit of beading. I had a few sessions during the day where I managed to get a decent bit done. And I have now finished the beading on the tail section that's closest to her torso. But you can see I've still got gaps on the end of her tail where I still need to fill those beads in there. I then moved on to do the strings of beads around her arms and neck. But again, there's still a lot more to add for this. But beading's just not really something that you can rush. It does take a while to do, especially when you're trying to wrangle that invisible thread. But I am on a bit of a deadline now because I really wanted to get her finished to take up to my mum and dad the next time we visit, which is the 19th of July. So it's only a couple of weeks away. And I'm going to be visiting the framer with my mum, and I really wanted this finished to take up there, which means I really just better get a wriggle on, hadn't I? There's no other way around it. Either I just knuckle down and get it done, or she won't be going to the framer. The next whip I have is the Wonders of the James Webb Space Telescope Stitch Along by Climbing Goat Designs. And we've now had 6 parts of this released. Still plenty to go, but 6 parts released. I'm nowhere near keeping up. That is no longer the plan. I'm working this really just as it's a sort of thread a day approach of doing maybe about 30 to 45 minutes on most days when I'm at home. And I've been doing quite well with that. So last time you saw it, I had just finished the Southern Ring Nebula and the hexagon frame that was just below that. I carried on and I've then worked another hexagon below that because that's where the next picture was that I wanted to do. So I started filling in that picture, which is the Tarantula Nebula. Now, at the same time, I've also started work on another hexagon that you can see over to the right-hand side, because this hexagon is almost entirely black stitches, and there's a few stitches of colour in there. So I'm putting in 1 strand of black on that hexagon, and then I switch back to the more colourful Tarantula Nebula. So switching back and forth just means I can kind of get that black done, start working on that without having to do a almost entire hexagon of black, and mix it up with the more colourful stuff. So that's been working really well. So I've really been enjoying stitching on this one, and it's quite fun having that different approach where I'm just doing a little bit on quite a lot of days of the week, because it's really fun to see how that adds up. Even just having small blocks of time each day, it really does add up to quite a nice bit of progress. I think the hardest bit right now is actually putting it down, because once I've got into it, once I've done my sort of 30-45 minutes of stitching, I really have to make myself put it down if I'm kind of on a roll with it, because obviously I'm trying to stick to that to avoid straining my eyes too much working on the very tiny count on dark fabric. So I'm trying to stick to that 30 to 45 minute slot. But yeah, it does make it hard to put it down when I'm kind of enjoying it. But I guess that's quite a good problem to have. Next up is one of my fancy ladies, and that is the Sorceress by Joan Elliott. And I started this one back in March this year, and she's been on and off stitching since then. So recently I have had her out and stitched on her. I stitched on her for a couple of Fancy Lady Fridays in June. And then because I had a whip go call for July to stitch 5 days on a Fancy Lady, I decided that would be the Sorceress, because I was really enjoying stitching on her and I'm really enjoying the progress that I'm making. So she is back out for 5 days in July, and in fact she's had a couple of those days already because I did take her away with me for the bit that we were away at the weekend. So last time you saw this, I had just made a very, very small start on the chair leg on the left-hand side. And I'm very excited with where I've got to now, because I've done all of that bottom section all the way up to the chair seat. That is hugely exciting to see such good progress. And I guess that's because a lot of it was either long lines or columns of stitching, so that has gone quite fast. And I've still got 3 more days to work on her in July, so I'm really hoping for some fantastic progress. And at some point I would really like to actually use this piece for a stitch with me, because I'd like to tackle the bit that's on the chair seat. There's a few items that are on the seat of the chair, and I'd like to use that because a few of you have asked about how I kind of move from one area to the next, how I choose what I'm working on, how I mark off my pattern. And I think that one, because there's a lot of interest in maybe colour changes, I think that bit, that would be really good to use. So I'm going to try and do a stitch with me. Don't hold me to it, and I don't know when, but I'll try and get it done this month. Next up is the Deadly Aquarium Stitch Along by Lola Crow. And I started this one in the middle of May, and it's joining my pile of SALs that I'm not keeping up with. To be fair, that's all my SALs now. Just all of them. I don't think I'm up to date with any of them. I'm fine with that. And this one, as you'll see from the picture up there, we now have exhibits 5 and 6, I think, have come out since the last time I showed you this. So we've got, what have we got in there? We've got exhibit 5 with some fabulous coral. We already had some coral in there, and then there's another huge piece of beautifully coloured coral as well. And then part 6 was the anglerfish. Oh my goodness, that anglerfish. And also a black dragonfish, none of which I've stitched. And in fact, I think I'm actually falling even more behind, to be honest. Every time there's a release, it's released weekly, so it's really not a surprise, to be honest. Last time I was very nearly done with the coral that was in exhibit 3, and I'd also put in a few stitches, literally just a few stitches, you'll see, on the stonefish that was at the bottom, which was in exhibit 4. So at least I can say now I have finished exhibit 3. So that was the coral, and that is all completed. And I'm working on exhibit 4. I finished the stonefish, which is the purple blob at the bottom. Now I haven't done the back stitch, which is why it is looking a little blobby at the moment. So I think it's going to look a bit better when I pop the back stitch on. I've done most of the sea lettuce, that's the greeny bit above it. I'm not doing all of that sea lettuce because otherwise there would be a gap for me to go back and fill in, which you know I do not like to do. So I've just done half the sea lettuce. And I've just started on the red lionfish, but as you can see, I've only got a very little bit so far. Now, as I've said before, I'm really not minding being behind on this. In fact, it's no bad thing for me because I do have a way in my head that I like to work from bottom right up to top left, and I don't like leaving gaps to fill in. So actually being a little bit behind on this stitch along, it just allows me to choose which bits I want to work and keep working kind of how I like to without leaving gaps or anything like that. So yeah, I'm really not minding that at all. And yes, I still have the frame to finish. I don't know when I'm going to get to that. The next one is, yes, it's another SAL. This is the Arctic Animals by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So super cute, this one. We've had part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is out since I last spoke to you, and it is the walrus. Oh my goodness, this walrus, just look at him there. His face is adorable. And it has been a little bit since you saw this because it was probably about 4 weeks ago. And at that point I had completed part 1, apart from the coloured name panels, which I have said a few times I'm going to be leaving those off for now. So I'd completed that, and I then hadn't dived into part 2, but I have now. I've now started on the walrus. He's quite big. There's quite a lot of stitches in there, but yeah, I'm very excited. You can maybe just make out he has 1 tusk at the moment. So yeah, I'm excited to work a bit more on him. And part 3 is actually out this week, this Thursday, I think. So yeah, I don't know whether I want to say I'm behind or not on this. I am probably still going to keep working on the walrus this evening. So I don't think I'll get him finished. He's got quite a long way to go, but this is probably the one I'm the least behind on. And since the parts are coming out monthly, I guess I've got more chance of maybe keeping up with it. So maybe I'll try to keep up with this one and not worry about the other ones so much. At least I might feel like I've got one SAL that I'm just about keeping up with. Oh, and part 3, it's been teased that it is an animal that enjoys eating lichen. So lovely husband Dr. Tim, his money is on it being a caribou. That would be amazing, but I guess I'll find out soon enough. My final whip for you is Frog by Hoops and Crosses. And I started this one, this is my most recent new start, which was in the middle of June. And I've been stitching this one, actually taking it into work to stitch. It's quite a nice simple one, so it's fairly easy for me to stitch in work. I did also say I was going to stitch it during the football, and after saying that a couple of weeks ago, I immediately ignored that and did not stitch on it during the next football match, probably because I had SALs I was trying to catch up on a little bit. But I did stitch on it during the match yesterday, and you'll see in a minute I got a fairly decent amount done, because when you last saw him he was really only half a frog and a very small amount of rainbow. And now the frog is all completed, apart from some backstitch. Now I was going to swap back and forth between stitching the frog and the rainbow, but that just didn't work out in the end. Again, because of the way I like to stitch everything from bottom right to top left and not leave gaps, I just ended up finishing the frog. And now I've just got the rainbow to finish up. And I really don't want to stitch that rainbow in sections. I want to do it all as long lines, because otherwise I might, if I did it in sections, I might get some kind of obvious joins. So I've got very long lines of colour now for the rainbow, but that does mean it should stitch up pretty fast. So I am going to bring him back out for the football match on Wednesday. And then I guess his future is sort of dependent on the outcome of that match as to whether there's any more to stitch him during. But he's also my most likely to be finished. He's my most recent start, and I think he's the most likely to be finished soon, apart from maybe Rossa. Would be nice to have a finish. It does feel like it's been a little while. So yeah, place your bets. Am I going to finish Frog or Rossa or both? Well, either way, that is all my whips. And I do hope that all went okay. I hope the pictures worked out well. I'm not going to know how it all went until I get into my editing and see how that all pans out. And I have to say, the main aim of this is obviously to give you guys the best view of my projects, but it is also to make my life a little bit easier with some of the filming and editing, because I have to be honest, it is a lot of work, mostly work that I make for myself because of all the things I like to do with the editing and putting in the pictures and the info panels, just not even just the pictures that I'm doing for this time round, but there's a lot that I like to do to my videos, so it does take quite a long time. And I would never ever complain about that, because I really do enjoy it. I love having these little stitchy chats with you. And I just really want to make it all as good for you as possible. So, of course, do let me know what you thought of this particular approach. What was good, what was bad. Yeah, just let me know. I really, really want to make this something that works for you guys as well as for me. Now, before I jump into plans, I did say I have a giveaway winner to announce. So recently, the very lovely Rachel opened up an online store, the Talking Dog STITCHY, which is absolutely fabulous. It is stuffed full of too many nice stitchy things to buy. And Rachel very kindly gave me a £10 voucher to give away to one of you lovely subscribers. So since I am filming this now earlier than planned, and we haven't actually reached the date on which I said I would draw the winner, I'm going to stick to that. I will draw the winner probably on the Tuesday, but I don't want to wait another couple of weeks to announce that for you. So instead, I'm just going to put in, at this point, there will be a picture in of the random comment picker that chose the winner. So the comment will be up there on screen. So if you're watching this, I won't be able to announce your name because I don't know who it is yet. So take a look at the screen, see if that's your name up there. And if it is, congratulations. I hope you have a wonderful time choosing what to spend your voucher on. And for everyone else, I highly recommend you go and have a little peek at the Talking Dog Stitchery shop anyway, because you might well find some lovely things to buy, and it would be absolutely delightful if we could all go and support Rachel's new venture. I have popped my affiliate link to the shop down in the description, so that will whisk you straight away there. And I've also put in the description a reminder of my code CATKIN5 that you can use to get 5% off of any orders over £10. So that brings me on to my new stash acquisitions. And I actually genuinely thought I didn't have any this episode. I was thinking, no, fine, no stash, of course not. And then I found three things. I mean, it depends if you're going to count individual items, but yeah, I did have new stash. The first of which is a project bag, and I haven't had one to show you for a while, and you never can have too many. So I have this beautiful project bag. This is from Ness Craft Room. So you'll see if I bring this, it's got her little label on here. Now just look at that beautiful, beautiful print. Very me with the pink. I thought that was really stunning. The combination of fabrics with this on the inside as well, and this is been stitched, sort of quilted, with a gorgeous little zipper pull on the top there as well. So yeah, as always, Nest Craft Dream bags are absolutely delightful. Definitely one of my favourites, and there's always a link to her Etsy shop down below. Not often do you find bags in there. You do often have to be very quick to get them, because unsurprisingly they sell out quite quickly. I think there might be a couple in there at the moment, so maybe go and take a peek. The next bit of stash I have it's actually the Cotton and Twine subscription box. So this is the one for June. And I have these boxes on and off, depending on obviously whether I like the project or not. I always like the project, but I can't have every single one because I genuinely would have far too much to stitch. But this one really caught my eye because it is this beautiful biscornu. And I've never stitched a biscornu, and I thought that was super cute. And in fact, you actually get a choice of 2 designs. So here's the other one. And oh my goodness, look at those little squirrels. So the only problem will be deciding which to stitch, but I don't really have to, do I? Because I think, here's the fabric and the beautiful colour palette. And there's not much overlap between the colours in there, and it's DMC threads. So to be honest, there's nothing stopping me stitching both of them. I probably just need to find another bit of fabric. Not sure where I'm going to find the time, but that's a problem for another day. Now, of course, that box came with a whole load of other goodies, but I have put them all in various places by now. So I did put a picture on my Instagram if you wanted to see what all the other lovely things were in that box. But yeah, lots of lovely goodies in there as well. And the final bit of stash, I have no idea how I could have forgotten this because I was so excited when this came through the post. And it was some more fabric from Coffee Craft Fabrics. There was a Fabric Super Sunday, so lots of different colours of fabric dropped at hourly intervals throughout the day. I have a link in the description to the Facebook group, which is where you need to be if you want to know about these lovely fabrics. And I've done my usual. I've ordered 32 count even weave, which is now my absolute favourite to get in the Coffee Craft Fabrics. And the first one is this. Actually, I'm going to leave it folded up a little bit because it's probably easier to show you. Is this beautiful? Well, I don't actually know what to call this, and I don't know how well it's showing up on here. I think it's doing, let me see, is it doing all right? I think it is. The light in here is really weird today, so I have no clue what it's going to look like, but I think it's pretty good. It was described as kind of a grey with pink tones. I think it's a little bit more pink with slightly grey tones. I know that's splitting hairs, but that's sort of, I think my initial impression is more pink than grey, but it's a sort of more muted pink. It's absolutely gorgeous, whatever you want to call it. It is gorgeous. And the other one, now I was only going to buy that one piece, but I didn't really want one piece to travel on its own. That's just mean, isn't it? So I bought this one to go with it. This one obviously is a beautiful, beautiful lilac colour. Let me see if I can bring it in. Look at that. It's showing, actually that's not too bad. It's not too bad. And yeah, I'm so glad I ordered that one as well. I ummed and ahed because I did get something purple in the last fabric drop, but it was way darker than this. This one is just, yeah, beautiful, beautiful pastel. So really nice fabrics. Still need to do some fabric organisation. I've done quite a lot of my fabric organisation, but yeah, I do still have a bit more to sort out, and it's not going to get any better if I keep buying more fabric. So that brings me on to plans. Just as the rain is setting in, I don't know whether you'll be able to hear that or not, but if you can, it's raining again. But anyway, the first part of my plans obviously relates to my WhipGo calls. And if you're not familiar with WhipGo, there's a video all about it that I've linked in the description. But I'm pleased to say I ticked off my June WhipGo calls, one of which, as I was just talking about briefly, was my fabric organisation. So that's mostly done. I have still got a few bits to finish tidying up. And of course, I will be making a video all about that. So I'm excited to share with you what I've ended up doing with all my fabric. And then for July, as I've mentioned, I have 5 days on my fancy lady, which will be the Sorceress, and 5,000 stitches to put in on Chromatic Dragon. Now, I think I'm actually just going to have to not do this because I realise I have got so much to do. I was trying to plan everything out, trying to plan the days to where I could get 5,000 stitches on Chromatic Dragon. And I could do it. But I just think for this month, I have got a lot of other things I want to be doing, and I think I'm going to resent trying to do 5,000 stitches. It's a very ambitious goal, and I feel like I don't need to put that pressure on myself. The WhipGo is meant to be there as a bit of fun, and if in this particular instance that goal is not really going to bring me joy to do it, it's going to annoy me because I'm trying to meet that goal and not doing the other things that I want to do, then there's no point. So I've decided I have already blocked out quite a few days to work on the dragon, more than I normally would, probably quite a lot more than I normally would for the month. So I'm going to keep those days. I will try and give it more time, but I'm not going to worry if it doesn't get to the 5,000 stitches. It's almost certainly going to be a lot more than I've been giving it recently, and I'm just going to be excited for that, and I'm not going to try for the 5,000, but I don't know. We'll see where we get to. Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, but I've just taken that pressure off. And a lot of this is down to what I've got waiting to start for July. Because despite the serious lack of finishes, I had 2 planned new starts for July. And because I am a crazy person, I actually think there might be a 3rd start in there as well. Now, I won't spend ages on this, but just to really quickly recap the new starts that I'm going to be having. The first of them is the Happy Halloween Stitch Along from the Historical Sampler Company. Now that is actually starting tomorrow. Yay! So I'm really looking forward to some Halloween stitching. I love me some Halloween stitching. No picture to show you yet, obviously, because it hasn't been released. Oh, there was actually a sneak peek. I'll put that one in for you, the sneak peek of it. And of course I can show you, I have now got the fabric and the threads for that one. So it's just your classic lovely, lovely Halloween colours. So I'm very excited for that one. The second one is When Life Gives You Lemons by Stitch Rovia. And this one I will be starting in a couple of weeks' time with my mum. So we are both going to be stitching this pattern. Fabric still to be confirmed for both of us. Might be doing it on the same, might be doing different, don't know. But I guess we'll probably decide when we get together. Now I'll try and take some pictures when Mum and I start stitching this, or maybe even some video. If I can get myself set up to where we can take a little bit of video of us stitching, then I might try for that. And the third new start that I really probably shouldn't be doing, I'm not going to say any more about that for now, in case I suddenly decide not to, but let's just say Jolly July? Okay, that's all I'm saying for now. And I think that's actually pretty much it for plans. It's really just that ongoing juggling of a fairly silly amount of whips. And I will keep my Fancy Lady Fridays and my SAL Sundays although both those things get stitched on other days as well. Finally, we have got to AOB, and there's not much any other business this week, it has to be said. Apart from the reason that I can't film in midweek is that Tuesday, Wednesday this week, we are actually having a new hot water cylinder installed. Now, that's not normally something that's very exciting, but I actually think it's pretty cool because we are having a heat pump hot water cylinder from a company called Mixergy. And this is pretty much the last piece of the puzzle in the journey that lovely husband Dr. Tim and I have been on to try and make our house as eco-friendly and efficient as possible. So currently having solar panels, home battery storage, we have an air-to-air heat pump for our heating. So obviously heating is electric, so we have no gas to the property anymore. We've been able to get rid of gas. And having this brand new heat pump hot water cylinder will give us the most efficient way to heat our hot water. Now, I realise this isn't something that interests everybody, but if it does, then definitely go and check out our other channel, which is called Tim and Kat's Green Walk, and we talk all about the things we've been doing to the house to make it more eco-friendly. And in particular, lovely husband Dr. Tim just made a video about whether solar panels are a good financial investment or not. It was really interesting, and the results might be kind of surprising to you. So yeah, go and check that out if you're interested. With that, we have reached the end of our chat today. It's time for me to say goodbye. I hope you have enjoyed seeing what I've been up to and maybe got some of your own stitching done at the same time. I hope you'll be back in a couple of weeks' time for my next FlossTube episode. And don't forget that in between then, I will also have some kind of tip or tutorial video for you. Although since I'm working on about 4 things, who knows what topic it might be. And I'm debating whether to do a mid-year whip parade, because yes, it's that time of year. But what do you guys think? Are there just too many of them? Shall I just not bother? Or is that something that you'd really like to see? I certainly have more whips than the last time I did a whip parade. Anyway, if all of that sounds like your cup of tea, then do make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single stitch. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, happy stitching and bye for now.